Hello, welcome to another episode of the Launch Sequence Podcast, episode 19. We're here in the beginning of October. It's October 1st today. It's not October 1st today it's coming out, but good enough, close enough. And CitizenCon is coming up next weekend. So today I've got good friends Piggles and Execute, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we're expecting next week. Getting a little deeper into the ships and what you might see coming from that event in terms of the ships coming up, and also a little bit just about the general gaming news that's been going on lately. How you guys been?
Yeah, I've been pretty good.
I'm well, thanks.
Yeah. Have you been excited at all? I know a lot of people are a little, I won't say apathetic, but maybe not as excited as normal for CitizenCon this year. What are you guys thinking?
To be honest, I forgot CitizenCon was coming out.
Sleeping on it.
And I'm a little distracted by Piggles' photo there. I'm just wondering when I actually meet him, am I going to recognize him if he's not in blue face paint?
Too handsome.
Isn't that a picture of him?
No,
that is Piggles, right? No?
Yeah, if he doesn't look like that, I'll be sorely disappointed. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it is going to be weird.
Sorry, I was just going to say I'm dreading CitizenCon, actually. I kind of dread these events because there's just so much work, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Man, I keep pointing the wrong way. I'm used to pointing opposite to what I normally do.
I don't know which way to point. Yes, you're over there. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
You got to get used to it. It's usually backwards. So I was pointing backwards to where I'm used to, but now it's the correct way, so now I'm stuffed. But you'd be having the same problem yourself, getting ready for CitizenCon. Like organizing a lot of stuff, and then literally, just a little bit after that, I've also got the AIE to come up. So yeah, it's the prime time for content this time of year. It's this big rush because you come out of this huge lull of nothing, and then it's a scramble to get it all done.
And I know a lot of people are just not that interested in it I mean, I won't say that because there's a ton of interest in it. I know there is. It's a vocal, likely minority of people who are less interested in it, but it's kind of like, for me, it's like E3. Like, I go into E3 every year not really expecting to get anything that I'm seeing, and while it's different because E3 is different from CitizenCon, I do just enjoy the moment. I enjoy being in the excitement and seeing new things. Then
it's very much.
Go ahead.
It's very much the atmosphere and the experience of being there, which you don't really get from essentially just a stream.
You don't. Yeah, that's definitely true.
I think that might be an important factor to touch on too. This being a digital CitizenCon, I think is a really good test bed, because I've said, and our grid as well, not to put words in his mouth, but we think it should be digital all the time because it's a lot more inclusive. And that'll be a really interesting thing to see how it goes this year, because they're not focusing on the people that are there. They're focusing on everyone being online. So they're hitting a more global, larger audience, where often because you're not there, you feel really excluded, or you don't get much choice on what you watch or something like that, because they were doing dual screens and stuff the previous years. So I'm interested to see how it goes this year. And I'd kind of like it to stay digital, because you do feel a little bit excluded at times. Especially when they're giving away exclusive stuff, like exclusive skins and stuff that you just can't get because you can't physically make it to the other side of the world. I don't know if you know where I live, but if you look up where I live, like, it's a little island at the bottom of Australia. It's literally as far, like, I was trying to look on the map to see if there was anywhere further away and the only other place would be like Chile.
Well, you got to look out for them, man.
South in Chile.
Got to ask yourself, what are they doing?
Yeah, well, they're in the same boat as me. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, way down south, and maybe I'm even further down than South Africa. So, and I was working out the distances, and they're still closer to Frankfurt than I am.
Well,
so I'm actually the furthest you can be from a studio.
And what you guys mentioned, that's a lot of the event is for people, is getting to meet up and see all these people for the first time in a while, or even for the first time ever for many people. So, taking that away from this year because of obviously COVID going on has dampened the effect for people as well. I've never been to a CitizenCon, so I don't have that connection to it. I've been watching them, I think, since 2015, but I've never been to one. Never really had that much of like a deep connection to it. I've mainly just watched it as an event and tuned in on the day probably up until about 2 years ago when I started to get more into it. But I think while that does suck that it's not going to have that sort of in-person community-based structure to it, the overall idea for me is to just get information, to get an idea of what's going on, a state of the project. You know, I feel like if we go out of CitizenCon this year without having a 80% idea of where we're going to be at the end of next year, then I think it'll be a failure. I think that's the most important thing that they need to do with the show. But was there anything in particular that you guys are looking forward to with the event, like ships, a specific panel, or seeing a specific person come out and speak?
I'm normally a really big kind of tech guy, so things like, server meshing, graphics tech. But what I'm really interested in actually is that Sounds of Space panel.
Why is that?
That's the only one I'm not interested in. But yeah, go ahead.
You would be, wouldn't you? But the thing for me is the way Star Citizen does the sound is really interesting to me because it has this dynamic fade in and out of different tracks. They can it splices them together for different events happening in game, and it's really impressive just to know what's going on technically. But it just works so well when you're listening to it, and I'm really interested. Oh, thanks, Execute. But you've made me lose my train of thought.
I'm good like that.
Strikes again. I'm with you. I like to say I appreciate the audio that goes into Star Citizen, but I also am disappointed by it a lot of times, and I almost feel like that's a disservice because I know it's not disappointing. It almost confuses me because I've seen the demos they do. I've seen what they've shown in ISC, and I've also seen heard a lot of really, really good displays of audio in the game. And then there's other times when it just really falls flat for me, and I'm like, this could have been so much better. This feels like it's really just, I don't feel the weight of what's going on in the game from the audio feedback, and that's the most important to me. That's why I'm excited for this panel, because I'm hoping that they do something that maybe builds my confidence in what's coming. Execute, why are you not excited for it?
It's not that I don't think the audio people should have their time in the sun, and I really think they should, because they are, like a lot of things in game development, they're underrated. It's just not the pivotal time to show that off, in my opinion. Like, you're trying to, it's like when they the last CitizenCon, they made everyone on stream watch the cosplay competition, and the views just plummeted.
Yeah.
Because nobody was interested. It's the same thing. Like, it's just not the most hot topic. And I'll be honest with you, as sound goes, we are actually kind of spoiled in Star Citizen. They're building a kind of really good engine around it, and the dynamic sounds that we have, and we've got Pedro making music. There are a lot of good people behind it, but like, it's just not the most interesting thing. And that's why I just think there could be something better there at the, this is the keynote of the entire year.
But that engine, is what's interesting, because it's all well and good making sound effects, and it takes an incredibly talented sound designer to do that. But to actually put it together and have it mesh dynamically is, it works really well. It's the kind of thing you look at and go, wow, and that's what I want to see.
Is that standard in AAA games? The level of the ways that you were saying, like, things crossfade and work dynamically together? Is that something you see often? Like, you were saying you were playing God of War before we started this conversation. Is that something you'd notice in that game?
The thing with games such as God of War, I can't claim to know how God of War does their sound, but you'll find a lot of their sound is kind of pre-planned, because they know where you're going to be at any given time and what you're most likely to be doing, because they're going to put enemies specifically here, and they can really expect what to happen and write music for that. And you can't rely exactly on that, because the player will do other things. But to be in a situation where it's impossible to predict what the player's going to do, you have to cover for every circumstance and be able to dynamically shift what the player's hearing to fit that it's an achievement.
So it's a lot more scripted usually, and it's a lot more dynamic in Star Citizen. Like, they can actually place sounds in the world. A lot of the time in games, they just come from a generic place, like they just play.
Yeah.
They don't play from somewhere in the world, because that takes time and effort and all that. Sound in most games, not all games, is kind of a little bit of an afterthought. It's not a priority.
You really do. You notice when the sound in the game is good.
Yep.
You were saying earlier, you don't think audio would be is something maybe that they should be focusing on in an event like this. I have the opinion, and I want to know what you think of this, that CitizenCon panels should always be sort of the same subjects, like the big parts of the game that need to constantly be updated, and then they always give us updates on those things throughout the course of development. What do you think of that? Like they
I
just
kind
keep
of
putting.
agree, and
I think that it's really great to have panels on the big things that everyone wants to hear about. But it's also great to have a spread of panels across various years. So like we had a panel a while back on the renderers and how each frame is put together and each layer during this compilation of a frame. But didn't have that for a few years after, and obviously we've got another one coming up this year, and obviously that was gone for a few years, and it makes space for other different specialized panels, so you can get a much broader view of the project as a whole as well.
That's fair. So would you say them having another ship talk, because I'm pretty sure they've done a ship talk every single CitizenCon, right? So they're doing another one this year. Necessary? A little too much?
I wouldn't say no to it, because everyone likes ships, but
it's kind of universal.
There comes a certain point where if you do the same content over and over again, it starts to get a little bit old.
Right.
Let me put it this way. When those videos are released on YouTube, because they release them a couple of days afterwards on YouTube, I bet you the Sounds of Space is probably lower viewed than Ship Talk. The Ship Talk will probably be one of the most popular panels bar none.
Absolutely. I mean, ships that's the shiny thing that gets a lot of people very happy. Audio is kind of supporting. Audio is a downstream team, right?
You often don't notice really good audio unless it's amazing, over the top good, and you kind of subconsciously process it, and it'll be really good, but you won't consciously go, "Oh my god, that's amazing."
Yeah.
Well, I also think you have to have good headphones or speakers to appreciate it as well. I think it's as much your own end as it is the creator's end, where everyone's happy to spend money on a video card, but they're not so happy about spending maybe even half as much on a good pair of quality headphones. And I know as content creators, maybe not Piggles, but we probably spend more on audio and microphones than most people do. So we actually do know the difference it makes, where most people, they just own a normal headset with a boom arm. I hear that quite a bit, the old boom arm. But yeah, a big pair of quality headphones like some of the ones you can buy, they will and a DAC, just having an external sound card essentially, and they go for 100 Australian dollar dues, which is not that expensive, and they make the biggest difference to a PC, because just getting the sound out removes a lot of the interference and clears up the sound. Yeah,
audio is definitely something that's been behind in the industry for a long time. I think it's started to get a lot more popular with the way that streaming has taken off, and people are starting to focus more on having like desktop microphones instead of just headset microphones. But that stuff's good too, because audio, to be honest, audio is more important than video, right? For a lot of experiences, the audio is super, super important. So I'm glad that that's something that they can focus on. I'm glad that apparently they've been making some breakthroughs on that, because I don't know much about the audio from even what we've seen, but that's good stuff.
I think they're conjoined. You need both, because let's just take this podcast for example. It's not going to be that much of a difference without the visual, but without the audio, you're stuffed. But then if you're watching a TV program, for example, it's very different. You need both of them.
Yeah, of course.
So I think they both have their place. It's just not like when you're mainly and predominantly in a visual medium. I just think that they could probably have used that panel somewhere else. But hey, everyone's going to want to have a break through that 8 hours. That looks like it's going to be the one. I'm just calling it now.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see what they do. They could definitely do some interesting stuff with audio, quantum sounds. They could start to show us more about the simulation that they're going to have when your ships or your suits lose power, that kind of stuff. So they could do some fun stuff with audio. We'll see. I want to pivot real quick though to the topic. One of the topics I had written down is that a lot of people will say, "Hey, CitizenCon's coming up. Who cares? Nothing ever makes it from CitizenCon into the game." This is mostly true of the panels, I would say, because the panels seem like a more kind of long-term road to release kind of view. The keynote, though, how do you guys feel about that statement when it comes to the keynote, when it comes to features and things that are shown in the keynote making it into the game in any sort of reasonable amount of time?
The keynotes are pretty much what most people turn up for, just the start and the end.
Yeah.
They are the real meat and potatoes. That's what most people turn up for. Even if you ever watch the Twitch numbers, they just absolutely skyrocket as the keynote starts. That's what most people are turning up for, just like a synopsis. And you often hear people, they back the first time they see one of those keynotes. Usually the most impressive part.
Would you say if somebody who jumped into the game right now, would they get more or less than 50% of what they saw in CitizenCon 2019's keynote?
I would have to think back. Well, basically, we got microtech, but we can't do the quests they showed off. Let's put it that way. And if you look back to some of the other quests, like the one with Clover Star Nearly, that's been bugged ever since. You can't do that either.
You can't do it, but it is in the game.
I played that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it works.
It's bugged for a lot of people. So you get out there to where the down satellite is, and the door won't open on the satellite. And it happened to me, and I've had it to hop into multiple people. So if you've completed it, lucky you, because I still think it's one of the best quests in the game, honestly.
I did it a couple of years back when it first came in. I never tried it after that.
I've never got it done.
I'd say with actual CitizenCon content showing up is, at least for the keynote, is there's this obvious skew for showing things that they intend on coming in the near future. Mm-hmm. But there's been this wide range of, it'll come in next week, or expect this in a few months to a year. So it's not really that easy to. I think it's
it's kind of the standard running thing now that whatever they show off is what we kind of see a year from now. So in the case of we don't have pyro. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's kind of broken the mold quite a bit. But everyone will say, but that's because of server meshing. But do we give them a pass on that, or?
Well, no,
because I'll put that question back to you guys.
Yeah, I don't know that those things are connected. I mean, the end of CitizenCon 2019, they said, "Hey, pyro in 2020." They knew they were going to need server meshing for that at that point. I mean, I hope they did. And yeah, there was. I will say there was probably some significant delay due to COVID, but I'm also of the belief, and I just put a video out today saying it. They need to be showing only what's going to be coming in the next year. And I know that's a hard call to make because that's how this stuff works. Like a lot of stuff just inevitably will get delayed. But I think that's why I'm like, okay, give them a grace period, 18 months. Yeah. But like they should be putting out confidently what they think they can get in the next calendar year, I think. In the keynote.
That's a hard call too, because they've also got to sell the game. That that's where they make most of their money here in Invictus. So if it's shit, people are not going to buy ships. It's that simple.
The problem with development in the manner that CIG takes is that you have to deal with not only having these rapid prototypes to actually show people and be like, okay, this is what we're working on, this is what we're doing, but you also need to deal with these rapidly changing requirements. You could be in one day and going, this is great, we're filling all the requirements we need, and then you show it to someone, and then the next week they go, okay, that's great, but here's some more requirements, we want you to change this or that. And it really has the ability to extend the development process by quite some margin if it's quite big a change.
So is that on the person who keeps bringing in more requirements?
Not necessarily. Requirements can change for various reasons. It can be on the development team. We might have a technical limitation that you just have to work around and change the requirements based on that. You might come back to whoever is approving this feature, for example, and they'll say, okay, yeah, that's great, but the vision for this was more of that, and then you'll change the requirements, and then it's really a process.
Sorry, it kind of goes both ways, because you can get someone that, so let's just take a coder, for example. Like, the coder might be really trying to future-proof it a lot and over plans, and then you get programmers that will under plan, and obviously the best place is to try and land somewhere in the middle, so your code's flexible enough to add new stuff to, but without taking too long to actually implement it. And that's just a coding. So you run that out to artists and all that, because the designers may change things, producers may change things. It's not just one person that's moving this. Like, it probably all funnels up to Chris, and Chris probably gets the blame for everything when something changes, but it wouldn't just be him. There'd be, or we've tried this, it doesn't work, we need to change it, or for gameplay reasons we need to change it. There's multiple reasons why something can change.
Yeah, we talked about it on Inforunners like almost a year ago now. The delays and how they can compound and bounce off of each other to change the plans for teams that aren't even related. So that is, it's a good point.
The other issue you have it with requirements is when you're setting requirements, it's essentially a professional game of Chinese whispers, because a designer will essentially go to someone and say, I want this, and they'll describe it to the best of their ability.
Right.
And maybe this person whose job is writing requirements will interpret it how they interpret it from what they're being told and write these requirements, and then the developer will get this set of requirements and read them and interpret that in their own way and do that, and eventually you never get exactly what you want. Yeah. So, which is why we end up with these changes.
Yeah, I hope that they can figure out a way to make it more reliable, what they show. Like, I don't want, it's not great when people see this show and they look at it on YouTube and the date says, like, you know how it can say 11 months old, 10 months old, a year old, and then after a year old, it's basically a year old until 2 years. So they could come in next November and see this video that says a year old, and they could be like, well, that's a long time, and you'd still not be able to do that in game. That's just not a good look. And I think they need to try to figure out a way to not allow that to happen too often.
Well, estimating, especially in development, is a very tricky process.
Of course, yeah.
Everyone's always there's two types of people that are either really optimistic or they're really pessimistic, and it's extremely difficult to actually get a solid length of time on how long you think it's going to take. Yeah, we fall foul to it a lot of where I work.
Like I said, trying to strike a balance, it's hard.
Yeah,
and I mean that in everything in life, you want to try and strike a balance, not just game development.
It's fair. But it's easy enough to say it. Hard to do it, though, especially in their big company.
Definitely.
They are a big company. It's hard to, sometimes it's easy to forget that. They're making a video game, so you think of them as just like the 10 people that show up on camera making the video game, and you forget there's like several hundred other people that they're trying to, wrangle together to make this happen. Let's go to ships, though. There's going to be a lot of ships going on at CitizenCon, at least maybe not CitizenCon, but in the next couple months. And there are a couple models that we know about. Execute, this is kind of your area of expertise. You wanna tell us what ship we might be?
Just mine.
Well, I not just yours, but you have a theory that you wanted to share about one of the possible ships that are coming up. You want to talk about that a bit?
Actually, well, if you're talking about what I think's actually coming, I don't think that that's coming until later.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay, then let's talk about what do we think is coming in CitizenCon.
Well, Piggles, I'll let you lead because you probably know as much as I do at this point, but you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, I'd be rather disappointed if we didn't see a 400i. Though at this point, knowing how it's been going, I wouldn't be surprised if it's
the legacy. I think about doing a documentary about this ship.
I've been seeing it showing up in the files constantly over the past year or so. So it's.
Can I ask
it's getting to the point where I have to be like, come on, guys, I promise you the 400i is real. You got to believe me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think the one thing that's different this time, though, that we haven't seen before is the skins. are in the files. So, and what I mean by that is like there's multiple colored skins that you can buy. So that means they're getting ready for release. They're getting ready to sell things to us to kind of, oh, hey, would you like this blue skin for your 400i or whatever? So that to me says they're getting a lot more ready for release, where previously we'd just seen the ship itself. We hadn't seen anything extra.
They also
now these little extra.
They also released their own official sneak peek.
Yeah, they did. That thruster, wasn't it? Yeah.
So that kind of helped.
The April Fool's 404 is clearly the 400i.
Right. Yeah.
It's the same shape.
So
with the
Piggles, when you get when you normally find a ship in the files or something like that, is it usually as long and drawn out as this one was with the 400?
Not really. Usually I'll see it maybe a patch before, or if it goes in really maybe a few patches before in terms of actual ship content. It's not uncommon to see really obscure references a little bit in advance. Do
you remember when we first?
Yeah.
Sorry, continue. I was just gonna say, do you remember when we first heard about it? I think it was July last year, wasn't it? Around that time, July, June.
It's been floating around for years. There's old concepts, new concepts, you name it.
Yeah, better be pretty.
Yeah,
better be good. So what's the general? I mean, it's an origin ship, so not many pre-existing categories that it could fall into. Are we thinking it could be something different from what they've already done, besides exploration, touring, possibly just like a general design ship?
I'd lump it in with maybe a touring / general purpose ship, kind of like halfway between the 300 and 600.
I kind of sorry. Go ahead.
Execute.
I was just going to say I probably find it if they originally pitched the 600i as a Constellation competitor, I would say it sits on the other side of the Constellation, so underneath it. So it's somewhere so basically having both origin ships somehow kind of surround the Constellation, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I would love to see it come in and compete with right in between the Constellation and the Corsair, and be a sort of a mid-sized general purpose exploration ship right there. That'd be great. Oh man,
that's a good spot.
That'd be a rivalry. The Drake Corsair and the Origin 400. Oh boy, get so many nerds angry.
Yeah, I'd love it to have some new gameplay. That's my main problem with all Origin ships. They just don't have enough of it for their price tag.
Yeah, definitely. What else are we thinking besides the 400 series? There are a few in the monthly reports that they've been talking about.
I'd love to see the Retaliator gold standard. I am very biased towards the Retaliator though, so...
You think they'll show the modules if they do that?
I'd love to see some modules, but they showed modules in the Inside Star Citizen a while back, so I wouldn't hold out hope for it.
Yeah, I don't think they'll tell us what a lot of those modules are either, because it's very clear to anyone that's been following, the modules have really affected sales, so they're basically just not showing that off, because why would you buy these 4 ships when you can just buy this one and it does almost all those things? So that's why they're kind of steering away from that. I did show you guys a thing in the what's it called? The release view of the roadmap. There's I don't know what it is. It looks like a bunch of vehicles or one vehicle that has just started work at the end of this September, and that's due to end right halfway through November. So for me, that I know we're talking about CitizenCon, but that looks like it'll be there for the anniversary sale.
It's not a lot of time.
There's definitely
from start to finish for a ship, so I'd assume that was more kind of concepting and white box.
Exactly, for a sale.
Yeah.
Which is why I bring it up. Of course, we've also got the Raft that Hater swears black and blue as a cargo ship, and this is getting back to what you're saying about my theory. I often try and work these things through realistically, and after talking to multiple people, and I was saying this to you guys before the show, but I'll read it off my sticky note here so I don't stuff it up. So I do believe it is a cargo ship, fundamentally, but I do think it's also the start of the refining chain. Where if you take the Starfarer as the large, we kind of know that you've got to have different slots. So you've got to have a small, a medium, a large, and a capital. And if the Starfarer is the large, you've kind of got to have a reason why there's these natural progressive jumps between the ships. And so basically what I came onto was, and it came from the Reclaimer, believe it or not. So the Reclaimer has this massive sorting room in the back, all these different, for you to sort out all the salvage and stuff like that. So my brain started going, well, what if there's sorting for mining? Because if you think about it, when you pick everything up in a saddlebag, it's not sorted.
Right.
So this ship could essentially tractor in the saddlebags, pull the contents out of it, sort it into different areas. And that's why when you look at the ship, it's got like ore containers, it's got liquid tanks and gas tanks and stuff like that. So it can basically take anything in, maybe not gas, maybe not liquid, I'm not sure about that, but it can definitely sort the ore. And so when it gets to the refinery, it reduces the time to process it because it's already been sorted. And you can look at sorting on other professions as well, and you could see where having the low end needs to be sorted, but the Reclaimer sorts it itself, and then the one in the middle, it has sorting as well. So and it could probably even take in saddlebags. Like it could be a ship that actually puts all the stuff into a saddlebag, and this ship could also sort that for a refinery, because scrap metal is not that much different from ore, really, if you fundamentally break it down. And if there's different pods underneath the Argo raft, you could literally have different materials in there. So you could have scrap in one and ore in another, etc., etc.
So that actually brings up an interesting idea that they haven't really talked much about gas mining in this game. Are we expecting gas mining to be as deep as ore mining, or is it just kind of an extra thing that's linked to fuel? Do you know what their plans are for gas mining?
Well, we know that the Starfarer can collect gas,
right?
So therefore, you have to naturally think that if it's at the top of the chain, there must be other ships that can collect it as well.
But
it's just a logical conclusion.
I was just wondering if their idea of gas mining is just flying through gas clouds, or if there's going to be more to it. Because
well, this is the other thing. Like, what's to say it's just the hydrogen fuel? Why can't there be like some other gas that you need to collect? Like, I'm just methane or whatever that is needed for other materials. So basically, at the moment, all the mining we're doing is based on ores. But we know for a fact from the things they've said in Star Citizen Lives and Inside Star Citizen and stuff like that, that there are 3 states. There is liquid, gas, and solid. So basically, I would expect to see a lot of starter ships around those 3 professions. And if you look at the Starfarer itself, it clearly does all 3. So it's like as you kind of go up the tech tree, so to speak, you're merging into bigger and better ships that kind of be more encompassing, where your ships down the bottom are more singular focused tasks. And again, it's just the way the whole game's being structured. You start out on your own, and it pushes you to start. So as you go out on your own, so say I'm in my raft, I will meet miners, I will meet salvagers, and then I'll start working with them, and then maybe I'll become friends with them, and then we'll get a ship together. You can see how it's working. It's kind of getting you to work with other people on your own, and then basically you become friends with them and you go up the chain. It's just a natural progression to me.
Yeah, I think go ahead, Pickles.
I think for me, I can definitely see the merits of the argument with the raft. And as usual, I like to withhold judgment until I find myself some concrete evidence. But the raft itself actually has a really industrial look, so there's definitely something going on beyond just pure cargo.
Agreed.
There. So I can see the merits of the argument of maybe sorting or refining, but it remains to be seen what it actually does beyond just holding cargo.
Well, as I said, Hader is absolutely adamant that it's not a refinery ship. So I believe him, and I go, with what most people tell me. But yeah, as I said, if you look at the steps, if you've got to have a large, a medium, and a small, just having the 2 ships both being refinery ships, so the small being and the medium, it doesn't make sense because there's not really a lot of progression there. So to step it out, you basically have just the sorting, and then the sorting and the refining, and the Starfarer itself, they've already said that it's got 3 refining cores in it. So basically, the starter might just have 1. So you can see very quickly, if you work out, you've got to have all the dots and you've got to connect all the dots. But there is a lot to go through. And then me jumping in and also saying that sorting is a thing. The only thing I've got at the moment is the Reclaimer. But hey, they've changed gameplay things before, and I can see the refinery terminal just having, it's got to be sorted and organized, so this will take an extra 5 minutes or whatever.
So this
I can see that being a thing.
This would still be considered, though, that starter refining ship that they mentioned at the last CitizenCon.
Yeah, it's kind of a cross between. Well, no, I don't think it is actually.
No,
I think they've gone back and again, one of the things I've talked about for years is if you actually think about how they release ships, they tend to release the largest capital ones first that make the most money because they're fresh and new and people want to buy them because it's a new concept. Then they drop to the small ones and sell all those. And if you look at across how they've sold things, they have, and we have hardly any of the medium large ones. Right, hardly any. And they're some of the best ships in the game. So things like the Reclaimer, the Endeavour, the Crucible, those ones are in the middle, and some of those are large in capital as well. But where's the medium mining vessel, the medium salvage, all those ones that scale up and down? We don't have any of those because they're going to be the most popular ships in the game. And that's why we don't have them, because they're leaving them to the end because they always had the plan. Look at how the prices have gone up and up and up. So if it's the most popular ship in the entire game and it's the last one they make, you do the math. They're going to make the most money off it. That's why they've done it this way.
I hope that the smaller ships are the more popular ones, to be honest. It'll be weird, right? If these big industrial, not capital class ships, but large ships
more
are more
Orions than Prospectors.
Yeah.
No. So you've misunderstood me. So right now we have. Let's take mining, because mining's a really good example, right? The most popular ship is going to be the large slot, right? I think, personally. But at the moment, we have the small, the medium, and then we have the I'm trying to do it with my fingers, but I can't hold. Yeah. So we're missing this. Oh God, my fingers are terrible. We're missing this middle one, right? So whatever that ship is that's missing, that's probably going to be the most popular ship in the mining ones in the entire game. So that and the mole will probably be the most two populars, because you can scale up from a mole to a large slot, and you can scale down to a small slot, but you can't take a small and scale down because there's nothing behind it. But you can scale up, and it's the same thing with the Orion. The Orion can kind of scale down a bit, but it can't scale up. Okay. And so basically, generally speaking, it's the same in all games. The stuff in the middle, even if we look at armor in Star Citizen, the medium armor is going to be the most popular because it's the most versatile.
Right. Yeah.
It's just that simple.
I like myself some medium armor.
Yeah, so the more versatile something is, the more popular it's going to be. It's simple math. So yeah, long story short, the ones that we're missing will be the most popular, and again, the small ones just won't be as popular because I know there's a lot of people out there that want this to be a solo game, and you will be able to do that, but it's just not going to be as profitable as working with other people.
Yeah, it's not going to be as
It's very
great.
clear from how it's been designed.
Yeah. No, I was just agreeing. It's not going to be as great if you're playing solo. There will be some things that you probably can't do in a group that you'll have to do solo, and those will be some really bright spots for gameplay for those people, but I think the majority of the gameplay will be geared towards group play, yeah. And I am personally not even thinking about, like you said earlier, gas and liquids in terms of this industrial gameplay, in terms of mining, refining, transporting, all that stuff. All I've been thinking about is solids, ores, putting it in boxes, putting them in bags, putting them in smelters. But yeah, I've not been thinking about the idea of mining gas, refining gas, or transporting gas or liquids and the types of cargo storage containers we'd need.
The only reason I know about it is because of those professional point of view episodes we've been doing on Inforunners.
Is it something they've mentioned with the game specifically?
Yeah, they've mentioned it. So I'm trying to think of the guy. He's in Frankfurt. He's looks like he's not the American guy that looks like the Viking. He looks like a Viking himself, but the more stocky Viking. I can't remember his name.
Stocky Viking.
He's like one of the head designer guys. Like he was one of the head designers on mining, but he was talking about the refinery ship and stuff like that. And you can, excuse me, you can clearly tell that he's thought this stuff through. But he was talking about solids, gas, and ore and stuff like that when it came to the Starfarer. And again, you can clearly see that pyramid I'm trying to talk about, because like you could literally see a gas starter ship, a liquid starter ship, and we've already kind of got if the raft comes in, there's your ore refining. Mm-hmm. So you could actually see multiple starters. It's kind of like the inverse of the Vulcan, where the Vulcan does a little bit of repair and a little bit of what's the other one? Rearming and resupply. Where when some of the other ships like they spread out. So yeah, it's really cool how they've designed it. So some things are top heavy and they change, and others are bottom heavy and they come up. But yeah, it'll be the same thing here with this. So refining looks like it's going to be something that splits out as it goes down to the small one. So I'm expecting to see kind of like 3 starters that kind of go up into the Starfarer, if that makes sense.
Well, we'll see. I do hope that they make whatever is coming in CitizenCon. I'll just say this. I hope it's a ship with a profession attached that is close at hand. Whether it be some refining ship or something repair related or refuel related or even exploration related. I just hope it's something that's got more interest behind it than just the looks. But there are a couple other ships.
Sorry, I was going to ask. I'd say this then. Sorry to interrupt. Piggles and Tomato, I'll ask you this. Would you expect by the end of the year to have seen the raft and the 400i?
Yeah.
I'd like to have seen at least the 400i. I've seen the raft appearing in files here and there, but yeah, not as much as other ships.
I think we'll definitely see the 400. The raft, I think we'll see.
I've seen references. Sure. I've seen references to the raft.
There's a couple of other ships here. Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah. So they've also mentioned, there are a couple names here and there that are they could possibly be nothing, but they've also mentioned on this panel, on the description, that they're going to talk about a fan favorite, I think, or something like that, hinting at the idea that it's going to be a very anticipated update on a ship that a lot of people are excited about. So that leaves a couple of options. I think the two most likely, in my opinion, are the Banu Merchantman and the Polaris. But if you had to think of a ship that fit that criteria that they could be updating right now, at least in terms of giving us an update on it, what would you pick? What would you think?
My answer will be the same as Piggles, I'm pretty sure. So Piggles, go ahead.
I'd say they're both fan favorites, but in terms of importance and ease of implementation, I'd probably say the Polaris.
Okay.
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
But I can see why they were both interesting, because they're both incredibly fan favorite ships, and there's been work on both of them. But, as I see it, the Polaris is an easier job than the Merchantman, because we don't really have any large Banu ships.
Yeah, that's
whereas
gonna be
with the RSI for the Polaris, we do have a decent amount of large RSI ships. I mean, Constellation, Bengal. Is there another one? Probably.
Everything you say there is correct, but with one exception. They are working on the Banu Merchantman. They're not working on the Polaris. So I lean more towards the Merchantman because they've been working on that all year.
I am a bit out of the loop with the both of them, to be brutally honest. So
same. I don't really follow the ship progress that much.
Yeah.
What are they?
I go ahead.
When's the last time they updated us on the Merchantman? Is that when they were working on the Carrack? They were saying the people who were going to finish with the Defender would go to the Carrack, and then from the Carrack to the Merchantman, but then that changed. The Merchantman got delayed, so I don't know.
Yeah. The last thing we really heard actually came out of Disco Lando's mouth, where he said it grew in size to be Polaris size, but over the last 3 sales, it's gone up by $50 every time. And I would, like, even at its current price, which I believe is about, is it 600 or 550 at the moment, around there? But I think it's going to jump another $100 at least on release. So it's not the last increase that we've seen for that. And also with the release of the Raelian is very much the replacement from what the Banu Merchantman was used to be.
Right.
Because it was pitched as a merchant clipper ship, which is basically a blockade runner, and that is 100% what the Raelian is. It's a brute force, put all your shields up and just get the cargo through type of ship.
Yeah, they've moved the Merchantman a little bit from the role it had. Okay, but so Raft 400 series, actually probably not the Raft 400 series, and Polaris. Execute, you're thinking Banu Merchantman. Any other ships that we're thinking could show up, though?
I would say the Raft by the end of the year. I know it's not CitizenCon, but...
yeah, by the end of the year, okay.
I'd definitely say one of them will come out at CitizenCon, and then the other will probably come out the anniversary. So that would be my guesstimation.
Yeah, makes enough sense. I think we'll probably get updates on the whole series ships, most likely. They've been doing some work there. Maybe we'll see something on the Scorpius. They were planning on having that out first half of next year, so there's a good chance they had started on the white box on that by now. I'm just thinking because
I think recently had a bit of a rework as well.
Right, yeah, and they did a lot of showing on that on ISC, but the last time they did a ship talk, they really focused on like the ships they were bringing in newly. You know, they had the Carrack was kind of like the headline ship for the conference. So I'm wondering if they're going to pick a ship to latch onto for this show again.
Well, they'll probably have the Ares and the Redeemer either here or at, because they've said it's coming at AIE now.
Yeah.
That's where the 0.1 patch is coming, and that'll probably be the ship they show off or ships they show off. So I'm expecting something like the A2 at CitizenCon potentially, because we know that's coming at the start of the patch, but then when 0.1 comes out, we'll probably see the Redeemer and Ares.
I could see them slipping at least one of those ships into the keynote, the gameplay demo as well.
I could imagine some straight to flyable as well. And it'll be through CitizenCon for the 3.15 cycle. You
don't think the 400 would be the straight to flyable?
I think it could be. I hope it is.
It could well be. It could well be. The other thing I want to bring up too, in regards to the ship talk panel, I also think that a lot of if you look at the roadmap, it's a bit Spartan now for the next what's coming up in the next year.
Definitely,
I think, we'll see some announcements there that'll trickle onto the roadmap shortly after CitizenCon.
And I'm betting it'll likely still stay pretty sparse until that big January meeting that they do. Like, they'll do 316 and then January is when we'll start to see like the bigger stuff come up next year. But it's interesting. 2021's been like a weird ramping up kind of year after like a really slow 2020. So next year's going to be, I think it'll be telling what's going to happen the first half of next year.
Yeah.
So let's go to...
No, I agree.
Leaving behind CitizenCon to finish everything up, I wanted to ask you guys a more general question about sort of a criticism that you hear quite a bit about the game. And I think there's a lot of angles to approach this from. But a lot of people say things like, you know, they'll see that there's a new ship coming and say, hey, why are you working on ships? Build the game, focus on features, build planets, build the systems, fix the bugs. Stop building ships because we don't need any more. Now, obviously, there's the whole idea that like not building the ships is going to lose the funding for the game. But ignoring that bit, where do you think we stand in terms of like the amount of ships we have, the amount of ships that we might need in the next year or two? Do you think there's any merit to telling them that they should slow down on the ships right now? Do we have enough for what we're doing?
I think that
Piggles?
I think that ships really usher in the driving force behind bringing in gameplay loops. Like, you know, we had the Prospector and that brought mining with it, for example, and various other bits and bobs. And a lot of the ships we've got at the moment that don't really do anything outside of their function have been in the game a long time. So I think actual ship development is a great driving force. I also think that, you know, ships make money and companies make money. So
they like money.
I think telling CIG to stop making ships is a bit of a lost cause, because that's not going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
It's like that little chat you and I had yesterday, Space, like where we were talking about the upcoming Hull series ships. Like there's one coming pretty much from the end of the year, and then all next year, every quarter, we're getting a new Hull series. So I think that really talks strongly to cargo next year. And I think if you tie in the release of ships with gameplay, that excites people.
Yeah.
I think you know, like the one ship I look back at a lot, which is my favorite, which is the Reclaimer. It's really disappointing that it came and didn't. It just still to this day it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So if you can tie, like look at how popular the Mole was when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good example, because it just came out and you could put it in that day and start mining straight away.
Yeah.
And everyone jumped on it. And I think they've realized that if they tie those two things together, it's a lot more popular.
Yeah.
So I think if you look at what they're doing on the roadmap with things, so let's look at I don't know the exact date, but salvage is on there. So when the Vulture comes out, I'd almost expect. Now, this is just giving an example, so I'm not trying to speculate here or anything.
Making promises right now, huh?
Okay, would you be surprised if they brought out, say, a medium salvage that we hadn't heard about?
When salvage came into the game?
Yeah. So if they release the Vulture directly into the game and make it playable, but there's also a medium one straight away that you can buy. Can you see that? Can you see how much more appealing that would be to people to buy?
I mean, that would be appealing.
Shitty Vulture that everyone else has got, or you can get the one above it that's kind of like akin to the mole, but for salvage. And I can see that straight away.
It would be very nice. I don't know if I could see CIG pulling that off, but I'd love for them to prove that wrong.
I could imagine it like a patch later.
Maybe a patch later.
Well, that.
Yeah.
I do think you're right about pairing the gameplay with the ships. I think people will very quickly stop complaining about new ships coming if each of those new ships actually comes with the features that they have. And they made that.
We have had that push, in the past few years. Prospector came with mining, Mantis came with interdiction. I'm sure there's another one that I can't remember.
Yeah, and they made a pledge in March of this year. I think it was a Star Citizen Live episode. They said you can go find it. That they don't want to release ships anymore without the gameplay associated. And so far they haven't gone back on that. We haven't really gotten any gameplay heavy ships this year, but it'll be put to the test when the Vulture comes in soon, when the whole series comes in, just to see if they stick to that or not.
I was just trying to give an example because this week's a really good example. Look how excited people are getting for bombs with the A2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
that's just that alone. I've heard people going, I'll think about buying an A2, one of the most overpriced ships in the game for what it is, but people are excited for it. So it even makes people question their own sanity, literally.
It does look pretty cool.
Bombs, I'd love to be able to stick those bombs in the Retaliator or an Eclipse, for example, instead of just the A2, because they are by title bombers.
If you actually watch the IC back, he actually states our first. He actually says that our first. Yeah. So there are others coming.
Yeah, you mean like they're going to make smaller bombs for the Retaliator, right?
Yeah, because it's got the size 10s. The Retaliator's got size 9 hard points. So.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 12 months we have another bomber. I wouldn't be surprised at all. A ship that's just so how if the Retaliator is for space bombing, and I'm not saying they're going to do this because I know you kind of want them to do it, but just say that they have that's the space bomber. I could see there being another ship that is just the in-atmosphere bomber.
Well, it's clear that they're definitely going to keep filling out all these different ship jobs that they're coming up with, and I'm agreement. I am in agreement. Jeez, I'm in agreement that as long as the gameplay is coming with the ships, they should definitely keep going out with it. And I also agree with you guys. I don't think there's much reason for them to not make ships as long as they're not like saying, hey Tony Zurovic, come build a spaceship. Like they're not pulling the people away from the jobs where those people need to be. So that's good. Are there any, just to finish this all up, are there any final ships that you guys would like to see coming up soon? Not even, it doesn't have to be an announced concept, just an idea of a ship that does something that you would like to do in the game that you can't do right now.
Personally, I'd love to see some kind of boarding ship. Like, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called the Vandal Cleaver. Mm-hmm. It's like this pod that would like latch onto the side of ships. It might not be called the Cleaver, but yeah. It's just essentially this pod that would latch onto ships, and it'd be this door open up, and you can just board through that. And like the Cutlass, the original Cutlass had that hatch in the bottom where you could latch onto ships and do exactly that. And obviously with the rework, we don't have that anymore. So I'd love to see some kind of ship that could be used for that purpose.
Okay, that'd be cool.
It's called the Hammerhead. That's what the Hammerhead's for. That's clearly what that is designed for.
You're gonna dock it up to a ship? That seems kind of big for that.
I don't like that whole.
But you can clearly, when you go into the Hammerhead and look, you can clearly tell that it's built for a Squadron 42 asset because it's got all those massive things. So it's going to ram whatever it rams, and then it's going to open the door and board it. And go back and look at the concepts of the Hammerhead. It's the only the only ship to this day that actually has humans, or as in characters, in the concept pictures. there's been never been like, and what I mean by that is like in-game characters. Like they have drawn ones, but they never have. So it was already been made. They've already been making cinematics before they even sold it.
It's very clearly a squadron-based ship. I'd like to see something a little smaller and more agile than something quite as large as the Hammerhead, because you can't board a constellation with that, because you'll just rip the damn thing in half.
you just plow through it.
Yeah.
For me, the ship that I would like that I'm kind of expecting, but I think I might be a bit off the mark, because I think the last ship is going to be an underground miner, and it's the last ship missing in the slot, which is the large mining, because we've got the capital, we've got the medium, and we've got the small, but we don't have that large one. And I think until they bring underground mining online, I don't think we'll see that, because I think the prospector can do that as well, but I think the large ship will focus on land mining or underground mining.
What do you mean when you say underground mining?
So have you ever seen the concept pictures of the prospector where the drill is facing directly down?
Yeah, it's boring down. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically this ship will be able to mine nodes under the surface. It'll scan them and mine those. So that gives us that. Well, think about it. It's just like real life. So basically, again, this comes from the professional point of view series on Inforunners.
Yeah.
Basically, you've got in-space mining, which is all set and good, but just like in real life, you can mine under the ground. So we don't have any ships that can do that currently. We do know the Prospector has that ability because it has the downward-facing drill, but I'm expecting a ship that's able to do that as well.
I hope that's still in the books for mining. I really do. They haven't shown any sort of hint that they're going to do that kind of stuff. I really hope they do, though.
Well, you can check that out on our channel. Space Money. I can't believe you don't watch our own videos, but
no,
that's
I
fine.
do. I definitely watch. I would definitely watch the professional channels. You keep referencing them, but I know the parts that you're referencing.
Quickly getting the Inforunners plug-in on you.
Well,
no.
I mean, that comes at the end.
He's an Inforunner. Yeah, he's an Inforunner too. It's not just me. But yeah. I tend to do just the professional ones because we only really kind of need one of us there. It kind of brings in special guests for those ones, and that's what it's all about. It's really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff because those people do those professions, and I just don't have that information in my head. And it's the same like when we take when I ask engineering questions, Space Tomato knows stuff that I don't know. And he'll ask me game development questions and stuff like that. It's all this sharing of information that kind of gets it closer to the truth.
Yeah. But yeah, I will. I'll keep an eye out for any of these other ships that are coming into the game, and we're gonna keep looking at CitizenCon coming up next week. We got 8 days. Next Saturday, 3 p.m. UTC. They're gonna be giving it a start with Chris Roberts coming out on the stage. So we'll see what happens. But this has been kind of the wrap up, getting everything summarized, at least in terms of the ships. Go ahead.
We might see more cargo ships too. Like the Raft, because it's specialty cargo. I wouldn't, with cargo refactor kind of coming through next year and the way that they're pushing a hole every single quarter, I'd be really surprised if we don't see more specialty cargo ships. Just put that out there. I don't know if that's a thing, but it could be. If the Raft turns out to be true, I would be really surprised if we don't see more down the road. That
would be cool, because cargo people are getting treated. They got the C2, they got the Ryland announced, the whole series coming out. Just Christmas, year-long Christmas. But yeah, I hope we do see more cargo ships, and I hope they get the cargo refactor finished by the end of the year, because that profession is depressing. It's sad. It hurts. But yeah, that's about it. Execute. If you want to give a shout out, go ahead. Inforunners, tell us where everybody can find you, us, them.
Same place they can find you, just on the YouTubes. So yeah, just search Inforunners on YouTube or Google. Yep.
And Piggles, do you want us to, I don't know, tell people where you Piggles. Got the picture?
Where do you buy the blue face paint from, Piggles? Where, who is your supplier?
It's a special brew I'm making myself.
You got to go to the Andromeda Galaxy for that.
Yeah.
It's a Mass Effect. Never mind. Anyways, this has been a launch sequence, episode 19. Good times. Piggles, Sir Piggles, execute from all the way around the world. We got America, we've got England, and we've got Australia over there. this is not an easy show to set up. So thank you guys both for making the time, for doing what you could to get out here at such a weird time for you both. And I appreciate it. Until next time, thank you everybody for coming. Please leave a like, a review, anything you can on YouTube, on your audio platforms, wherever you're listening. And I hope to see you next week. We'll be doing one about reviewing CitizenCon, and I think you'll like it. See you guys later.
Bye.